Hi, my name is Tom Shue, and today I'm going to teach you how to determine if your lens is sharp. You hear a lot of people say a lot of things. Buy this lens, it's sharp. Don't buy that lens, it's soft. Shoot your lens at this aperture because it's always sharpest, and shoot your lens at that aperture because it's the best. Don't shoot your lens at this aperture because it's too soft. Well, how do you know if something's sharp or soft? Well, I'm going to tell you a secret. The secret is this. You can use a piece of newsprint. You see on the wall there? There's a piece of newsprint. And what we're going to do is I'm going to test 3 lenses. This lens is a 28-105. It's an old lens from Canon. It's an EF. It's a 3.5 to 4.5. It's not considered a very good lens at all. Okay? We're going to test that lens. I'm going to test an old manual focus lens. This happens to be one of the unicorn lenses from Pentax. I still have a lot of 645 gear for Pentax. And this happens to be the 35mm f3.5. This is one of the sharpest lenses ever. It's designed to shoot with a large piece of film, so it resolves more information than what would be required for a 35mm film or sensor. And then we're going to test the beast, the one that everyone always, either loves or hates, the 85mm 1.2. This lens here, they call it the keg. Okay, we're going to shoot it at various apertures because if you know your gear, and to know your gear, you need to know at what aperture is it sharp or what aperture is it soft and why. Okay, is it the lens just a piece of junk, or it just doesn't get sharp until you get to f4, f8. Okay, so what we're going to do is we're going to mount our lens to our camera. We're going to make sure that the face of the lens is parallel to the back wall where this newsprint lives. I made a cross mark, and then you want to fill the frame with your lens. Okay, if you have a zoom lens, you can do your testing at different focal lengths. The whole idea is to test all of your gear to find out at what focal length it's sharpest, because lenses aren't always in sharp focus at, say if it's a 70 to 200, it might be sharper at 70 than it is 200. Okay, prime lenses you can dial right in with micro focus adjustment, but you can't do that with zoom lenses. They're always going to be more in focus at one focal length. Okay, you just have to live with it. Just the name of the game with zoom lenses. So what we'll do is we'll test this and we'll determine how our edge corner to corner sharpness is and how the center sharpness is. A couple things you might want to use. We have a cable release. Okay, and what the cable release does, it takes any vibration out of us pressing the shutter button. Sure, you could go into timer mode, but you still deal with something called mirror slap. If you go into your menu, you can enable what's called mirror lockup. What happens with your mirror is your mirror is like this at an angle, lets light come in, it goes through the pentaprism or the viewfinder so you can see it. When you take a picture, the mirror comes up, the shutter opens, like this, there's a slit, it opens, travels across, and then the mirror drops down, and it repeats over and over every time you take a picture. Well, what we're going to do is we're just going to lock the mirror up so there's no vibration from that mirror. So there's a couple ways you can check critical focus, and when I say critical focus, I mean to make sure that it's sharp as possible. You can use your autofocus system and test it, but I also like to use manual focusing. I have from Zacuto, it's a viewfinder, and basically it just magnifies the back of the LCD so I can tell if something's critically sharp. So we're going to go into live view mode. Okay, we're going to set our viewfinder on the autofocus until we lock on the center focal point. So we'll move down. Okay, there's focus lock. I'm going to check my aperture to see where we're at. I want to be wide open in this case. It's letting me go to f4, so I need to back off a little bit because this is one of those junky lenses that changes the aperture when you move. So it's going to make me move in a little bit. You can only go so close to the text because what will happen is you'll lose the ability to focus. Okay, so let's zoom out. Okay, So we'll take our first picture here. So with the mirror locked up, you have to watch what you're doing here. You want to hit it one time to lock it, and there you go, it takes the picture. Sometimes it'll lock it up and then you have to hit it again to have it take the picture. I'm going to turn off this live view, because live view automatically locks up the mirror. So the light goes directly to the sensor, okay? So we'll try this again. There it is. The mirror's locked up, you hear it click, and we hit it again. And then now we've taken the picture. So we'll take that picture and we'll do it at multiple apertures. So that one's to be at f4, and we'll shoot at the next dot at f5.6. Same test, lock up, and take the shot. So we'll move it to the next one. And you have to adjust your shutter speed as you change your aperture, just so the exposure is correct. Okay, so we're going to go from 5.6 to f8. We have to open up our shutter speed. We're going to focus it. There's the beep. Lock up the mirror. Now just let it set for a second with the mirror locked up. Then we'll release the shutter. Alright, and we'll just continue through. So I'll test all the lenses and I'll show you my results when we're done. And yeah, if you don't need anything fancy to test your sharpness of your lens, all you need is a piece of newsprint, some way to lock your mirror up, and a cable release. This particular cable release is from iShoot. I think it's $4 on eBay. And this actual Zacuto viewfinder is kind of expensive, but they have options that are a lot less expensive. However, if you want the best, Zacuto is one of the best.
Hi, welcome back. Here we are. Here's a bunch of boring stuff here. Okay, these are the shots we took with all of the newsprint. Okay, I've got it broken up into a collection. Let's go to this project, tutorials, and we'll call this one the newsprint for sharpness. Okay, we'll just close this tab down, give us some more real estate, and we'll close this tab down as well. Okay, we can look at them in two views. The grid view is what we're looking at right here. And if you kind of hover a cell, it will tell you what it is. This is saying this is 28 to 105, that cheap lens. And this is at 28 millimeter, and we're shooting at f3.5. Okay, so let's open this one up. Okay, and I'm not too worried about the color or the white balance or anything like that. I just want to show you how to determine if you have a sharp lens, or what is the best aperture at which you should shoot your lens if you're looking for the sharpest possible photo. So in this particular lens, we shot all aperture ranges and wide, medium, and telephoto in the focal length. So we shot it at 28. We shot it at 50. I shot it at 80, around 85 millimeters. It was actually 83. And I shot it at 105. So I did a lot of testing, and you should test all of your lenses as well. So let's look at this first one here. This is as wide as the lens can go. It's a 28 millimeter, and it shot at f3.5. Okay, so let's zoom in. I made a crosshair right in the middle. This is where we're going to be focusing the lens at. That was my focus mark. And you can see this text, it's a little soft. Okay, we are shooting at f3.5. However, just take a mental note of the sharpness of the middle of the image. Okay, and now let's go out here to the outside corner. And you can see it's completely muddy. So this would be considered soft in the corners. As far as I'm concerned, this is considered extremely soft in the corners. Okay. So also you can see that the image kind of looks like it bows out. Okay. There's different types of distortion. There's pin cushion and mustache and all kinds of stuff. We're not going to go into that. We're just dealing with sharpness. So let's use something as a reference to judge. Let's look at these two boxes. This blue box and this white box. So we know edge to edge this thing's horrible. So if we click over here, you can see you can't even read the text. We click over here, it's big text, but let's go over here in this corner, and again it's unreadable. And in the center, it is readable. Alright, so let's move to the grid view, and we'll skip a few, but if you take a peek, for the first one, we'll just go through each f-stop. So this one was f3.5, and this one, we'll skip one, it must have been the first test shot. This one is f4, okay? So I want to work in full f-stops, and this lens is 3.5 to 4.5. It's a variable aperture lens. So I just went that, you know, partial stop just to get to an even stop, so I can go to f4 to 5, 6, f8, f11, same, so we can move out in full stops. So we can see that looking at this image, it is sharper, just that little bit. It is sharper, but again in the corners, it's garbage. All right, so let's hit our grid. So we're going to go from f4 over here to this one, which is 5, 6, and we can see in the center. Let's let this load up. You see that it's considerably sharper in these text areas. I'm looking over here at this area, and it looks pretty sharp. Okay, so let's move over to here, and you can see that the corners are just soft. So at this focal length, it's just soft. So we'll go back to grid view, and we're going to go to 5, 6 to f8, and now we should start to see a considerable improvement in sharpness of the text. Let it load up, and it is considerably sharper. So we'll just remember this, and we'll go back to the first image, and we'll load up that same thing, and you can see that, I mean, the letters look gray, they don't even look black. So let's do that again. Control Z to back up, and there is the other one. Okay, that's the F8. So we'll go to the grid view, and then another thing I want to show you is when you get up to F16, okay, this is where you're going to start to see it's moving away from being as sharp as possible. When you go to F22, you get what's called diffusion. It gets softer. It doesn't get sharper. It gets softer just from stepping up. So it gets considerably sharper in between each aperture. So we went from F8 to F11. Check out F11, and you can see that there's an increase in sharpness. Okay, the text looks pretty good. And let's go back to the grid. And then here's F16, and the text looks pretty good. Okay, and then look what happens when we go to F22. Watch what happens. The text is soft again. So let's do this real quick. Let's go to the grid view, and let's select this one, and then I'm going to back up. This is F16, and this is F22. Can you see the difference? F16, it just gets sharper. Okay, so let's get out of that. It's going to be kind of a long video, and I'm sorry, but it's going to show you how you would just judge these. So if we move down here, let's see where we're at. This one happens to be at 28. Let's check down here. This one's at 50 millimeters. Okay. Make sure we're at 50, 5, 6. We'll start over here. 50th f4. Okay, that's the first shot. Okay. So I won't go through each one. I'll just go right to the middle. So you can see that's 50 millimeters. And as you go to the corners, it's still dull, but it's not as dull. I mean, it's definitely blurry. So there's lots of distortion in this lens. It's crap. So we'll go to our grid view, and we'll just go right over here to the middle of the road. That's F16. So we went from F4. That's too big of a jump. We'll go to F8. And you can see the text looks pretty sharp at F8. And you see that it's less soft in the corner, but it's still definitely soft in the corner. Okay, so we'll go to G, and then we'll come over here to F16, and this is about as sharp as this. I've determined that this lens is sharpest at f16. So if I need to make a critically sharp image, f16. But you see what happens in the corner at f16 on this lens? F50? Okay, look. Here's the readable text. Now look at the corner. It's readable. So f16 at 50 millimeters, it looks pretty sharp in the corners as well as the center. This is how you determine your lens. So where's your sweet spot on your lens? This is how you determine it. So let's do one more test. We'll go to f22. This is at 50 millimeters, and you'll see that it's not as sharp. Do you see that? It starts to break up. This is called diffusion. The light starts bouncing around inside the lens and causes it to be soft. Actually, that would be diffraction when it bounces around. But you can see the corner is just as sharp as the center at f22. And the paper doesn't look so wide. Remember, we're at 50 millimeters, so we don't have that wide angle view. Okay, so when you use prime lenses like the 20 millimeter that I did a tutorial on before with the wide lenses, it has less softness in the corners as say a zoom. So let's do one more. Let's go to 105 on this lens. So this one happens to be 83 millimeters, because that's like a portrait focal length. We'll just go right to 105. Let me find it. Oh, those are the prime lens. Okay, this is 105, and that's at f8. Let's move over here and see what this one is. 83. Okay, this is 105 millimeters at f4.5. Okay, so if we zoom in here, you see that's pretty soft. But look at the corner, again, soft. So the focal length has a lot to do with how this lens operates. This lens likes to operate in the middle of the focal length between 28 and 105, somewhere in the middle of that focal length range. It gets the best sharpness corner to corner. At the ends, it's terrible. Okay, so we'll just check one more thing on this crappy lens, and we'll move on to the 35 millimeter um, manual focus lens. So this one happens to be the 105 at 5.6, f8, f11. This will be f16. So let's check it at f16. It's sharp. Let it load up. Okay, it's pretty sharp on the text. And then you come down here in the corner, and it's sharper in the corners, but it's nothing like it was at 50 millimeters at f16. If we go to 50 millimeters at f16 on this lens, you'll tell that the center and the corner is just as sharp. Okay, let's get out of that one. Let's move over to this one. Okay, that's 105. This one here, okay. Now this one's not going to be able to tell me the aperture. I'm just going to have to tell you what the aperture is because it's all manual focus. And this lens starts at 3.5. Okay, let's see. This one was the last 105 shot, and that was at f22. So this is a 35 millimeter at f3.5. So let's look at this, how sharp it is in the center. That's really sharp. Okay, this is why I like to use medium format glass on 35 millimeter digital. So let's look at the edges. Look at that. So you could say that this lens is sharp corner to corner. It's just going to get better, folks. So we are sitting at 3.5. So now let's go to the next focal length. This happens to be 5.6. So let's zoom in here. And we'll back up one, Control Z. Let's get it back in the middle so we can see the same thing. So this is 3.5. You can tell the file number is 4.6. So we go to 4.7. You can see that it gets sharper at 5.6. Now let's move over from 5.6 to f8. These have never been shown before. I'm looking at them for the first time. And you can see that it's pretty sharp for print. So we'll go back to 47 and sample, which this is the f5.6 shot, and this is the f8. And then we'll go to f11. Let it load. So f11, that looks pretty sharp. And then we'll go to f16. And f22. And watch what happens. It's going to get sharp. It's going to get softer from diffraction. Actually, it's not too bad. Okay, so let's look at it in the corners. So this is the center of the lens. This is the corner of the lens. And you can see that this lens is really sharp. Okay, I want to move back one image to the f16 image. Okay, and I'm going to look at it in the center. And I'm going to look at it in the corner. And this text looks pretty sharp. Guys, this is a really great lens. If you ever get a chance to pick up one of these lenses, it's a SMC, which stands for Super Multi-Coated Pentax A. That's Pentax-A 645 1:3.5 and then 35 millimeter. So it's a 35 miller f3.5. It's one of the best lenses I own. Okay, so now let's compare this to the 85. Okay, let's see what the 85 can do. Okay, see, we'll read this one, and that one's not it. Okay, this is the 85 millimeter. 85. Okay, this is the last of the 80. This is the first of the 85, and this is at f16. This is the highest this lens goes, and you'll definitely be able to see diffraction on this one. Guys, this is a $2,000 piece of glass. Okay, so let's look at this one, f16. You can see it in the corner, and now I'll move over to f11. It actually got sharper at f11 than it is at f16. Look at the letters. F16 is kind of fuzzy. Look at the word requested. I'm going to move again. Back to F11. There's F11. There's F8. Takes a while for these to load the first time. F8 is actually sharper than F11. We'll go back to F11. See, it gets fuzzy in the E. Look at this little E right here. Now the E is not as fuzzy. So it's sharper at F8 in the middle. So let's load up here F5.6. 5.6 is sharper than F8. Let's go back. See, the E is a little fuzzy. So it's sharper at 5.6. Let's look and see here. F4 starts to break down. So I'm just looking at this E right here. I'm going to move back a little bit. And 5.6 looks sharper to me. There's F8. It's between 5.6 and F8. Let's move down. Let's keep moving down. There's F4. Here's f2.8. There's not a lot of difference. Stays pretty sharp. What makes this lens so great is it stays sharp as you get wide open, which most lenses fall on their face. There's f2. There's f1.4. Still pretty sharp. Now let's look at f1.2. Yeah, it's not quite as sharp at f1.2. Let's look at the corners. Starts to get pretty blurry. Okay. In the center, looks pretty good. I want to go back to 5.6 and check the corners. F4. I'm looking over in the corner, top left. Okay, so we're at f5.6. Let's check the corner. and you can see that it's sharp. It's pretty sharp. F1.2, it gets a little soft in the corners, but my point is this: the 85 is awesome because it's f1.2. It just looks incredible, and that's why I bought the lens. Great for low light and great for that blurry background. However, if I want to get a sharp lens, my 35 3.5, it can't be touched. Sorry for the really long video tonight, guys. This is how you would analyze your photos. They sell these resolution targets if you're going to do some scientific measuring. However, this piece of newsprint, it works wonderful. It's cheap. It's always in stock. You can get a newspaper every day off the side of your sidewalk for free. They send them to our house for free anyway. And you can test your glass, and you know where to shoot from after you've tested it. I've tested every lens I own, and I kind of know this lens is sharp around f8. This lens is sharp, at 50. So if I'm out in the field and I know what lens I have on, and I need to make a critically sharp focused image, I know where to go. So thank you all for visiting my blog today and putting up with this really long video. Again, I'm sorry. And until next time, we will see you soon.